It's good to be with all of you tonight. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good day and a good evening. I appreciate you being here for our midweek Bible class. Let's go ahead and have a word of prayer and then we will get started. Father, you bless us in so many different ways that we would be here for the rest of our life counting those blessings. And still, it would not be enough time to name them, as the song would say, one by one. Nor to give you enough praise, honor, and glory for those blessings, and yet you still continue to give them. And we know that those blessings are a reflection of your goodness. And while most will be thinking this time of year about physical or material blessings, we are most grateful for the spiritual blessings that we have in Christ. We are thankful to have access to your throne of grace and mercy because of His intercession for us. And we're grateful that we could be adopted into your family, be called sons and daughters of God. That we could have our sin washed away and be clothed with purity in the righteousness of Jesus. We thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We pray that as we open up your written word, that you will transform us into the image of your Son, and that you will strengthen the faith that we brought here with us this evening. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, so we are continuing our study for this Godly Interviews. I'd like to go ahead and tell you that tonight and then next Wednesday will be the last two that we do on this Godly Interviews character study. If you want to go ahead and be reading the New Testament letter of 2 Peter, that's what we're going to start with on the first Wednesday night in December. So if you want to go ahead and start reading that, please do so. It'll be a good break because the week of Thanksgiving, as you know, we always have a combined Thanksgiving service. So this provides us with a natural break. So when we come back after that in our classes, we're going to pick up with the letter of 2 Peter. So if you want to go ahead and be reading that, familiarizing yourself with that, that would be great. So have you ever wanted something so deeply that it brought you to tears before God? And I know I put something, but this is probably more in regards to someone, something for someone, even if that someone is yourself. But either way, have you ever just deep in your soul, just have ever wanted something so deeply, so badly, whatever adjective you'd like to use, that it brought you to tears? Now, I don't want you to share it. I just want to see what your thoughts were. I think most everybody is shaking their head up and down that we've all been there in a time in our life, whether for ourselves, someone that we love, someone that we care about, whatever that may be, that we've wanted it so much that we were brought to tears. Yes, it brought us to God, but we had nothing but tears to bring to Him. The biblical word for this kind of idea, in terms of wanting something so bad, which means that I'm empty of it, I don't have it, so I want it. The biblical word, and you find this word a lot more in the Old Testament than you do in the New Testament, is the word barren. It's the word barren. And it's used a couple of ways within the Bible. Again, specifically within the Old Testament, a land can be barren. It just cannot produce vegetation. It can't produce trees, grass, fruit, so forth and so on. So a land can be a barren land. That land is most likely described as a wilderness in your Old Testament. So Israel is out in a wilderness. They are out in a barren land. It's kind of how it would be literally put. A situation can be barren. We saw that with Ruth. We saw that with Naomi. That barren would be a way to describe their situation, losing husbands, losing future, security, so forth and so on. But once that situation sets in, see, it's the concept of bleak. It's just really bleak. There's just nothing. Nothing in the present, nothing in the future. It's just a bleak way of being able to see life, whether in that moment or again down the line. It's lifeless, is kind of the idea. Most of us, when we hear or see that word barren, we associate it with life, the inability to have children. That's what it's used mostly for within the Bible, and again, specifically in the Old Testament. Numerous women are barren in the Old Testament. Notable women are barren in the Old Testament. What aspects of barren exist in a person's life? So again, for a woman, it could be the inability to conceive, to have children, so she would be barren. But give me some more, or give me other examples other than that can exist in someone's life that they could say, I'm barren right now. I'm lifeless, I'm bleak, I can't produce X, Y, Z, whatever that may be. Give me an example of that. Give me something that would fit that.
Conscience.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Have no conscience. Nothing ever moves them in the right direction.
Okay. All right. So conscience in terms of right or wrong, is that kind of what you, okay, all right. So one of those is just, it just doesn't go the way that they're supposed to with decision making and so forth and so on. Okay, what else?
Something you read a lot about these days is lack of
Okay, so relationships, connection, family, friends, just barren in that aspect. So relationships, yes.
well, no husband.
Okay, so no husband or wife. It could be just from a relationship standpoint, but specifically in that regard. Because if that doesn't exist, then there's not going to be children and so forth and so on. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so destitute. Well, that's what came, but yes, that idea. And we meet a lot of people in the Bible. Again, both Testaments that are that way, where there's some sort of, because of a disability or something else has happened, financially they are barren, they are destitute. Okay? Anybody else? Okay. All right, so truth is absent. It's bleak, it can't be produced for whatever the reason is, but it can be produced. Anybody else? About emotions. Emotions. Common sense. Common sense. So I would probably tag that into your conscience aspect of what you were talking about a minute ago. I think your health. How about Job? When Job is struck by the devil with his health, is he not barren? Is he can't produce a healthiness, if you will. Of course, his wife leaves from that aspect as well. I wanted you to start thinking of this aspect, because when we experience barrenness, and we will, then what is to be our response? Barren, again, I know the Bible will portray it in terms of the inability to have children, and the individual we're going to look at, she has that issue. But she also is going to be barren in other ways as well. And what she's going to do, what she's going to help us navigate through this evening with the time that we have, is that when we experience a time of being barren in our life, so it could be a relationship that's on the rock or on the verge of breaking or gone, a consciousness, maybe ours is being seared to a certain extent. We don't realize it. Common sense, truth just seems to be absent in wherever it is. Again, destitute, the list could go on, but the point is that if we've already been brought to tears about something because we were empty and we wanted something to fill that void, we've experienced that, then what is it that is supposed to be our response when that happens? The one that we're going to look at, she comes from 1 Samuel. So if you want to turn there, you can, 1 Samuel. And what's interesting, and we give you kind of a little did you know facts about 1 Samuel, because I at least want to try to keep it contextually. Even though we're looking at it as a character study, these individuals are part of a bigger story. So I don't want to just isolate them or divorce them from their context. So I want to give you this aspect of it. I'm not sure how much you know about 1 Samuel. Again, it's a Wednesday night. We probably haven't read it in quite a while on our own, and much less studied it. But really, 1 Samuel is really about an idea, the concept of Israel as a nation being a barren nation. It's a barren nation. She can't produce anything, and the reason is because in the actual Hebrew Bible, 1 Samuel follows the book of Judges. Now, in our English Bibles, you have Judges and then what book? Ruth. And then you have 1 and 2 Samuel. That's actually not the order. Ruth takes place during the time of the Judges. When you have the last judge coming onto the scene, that is the beginning of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel picks up on that. And Samuel, the actual prophet Samuel, serves as the last judge and the first prophet that is in your Old Testament. Now, I know Moses kind of wears that hat as well. but Samuel provides that as a bridge. But it follows the book of Judges, and there are three ways to look at the book of Judges. One is the spiritual ineptitude of the priests during the book of Judges. They just fail throughout the entire book. So it's not just the judges who fail. Even though they succeed in some areas, they always seem to fall short of being to be fully deliver Israel. And part of that is because the priests just don't do their job. They just don't do it. They are inept in their role in what they do. At the same time, I'm using it from the tribe of Levi. Levi is, as a tribe, is involved in the military. If you remember your Old Testament, that tribe had nothing to do with that. That tribe it's the priestly tribe. They forsake their role and they go do another aspect. And then you have the Levite sexual misconduct throughout the book of Judges that kind of highlights with the prostitute that's cut into 12 pieces. Well, when you get into Samuel, you have a house led by a man by the name of Eli with his two sons who serve as priests. Eli and his two sons are the summary of the entire book of Judges. They are all three priests. They are inept at their role, to the point that we'll see Eli with this lady that we're about to study, that he is so dull in terms of his spiritual sight, he doesn't even recognize what's happening in his presence. His sons are running amok, doing whatever it is that they want to do. Sounds just like the book of Judges, and that's because it is. And they are not fulfilling their roles. And in this, the reason why this is supposed to be forefront to us is there anyone in the face of all of this barren aspect? Is there anyone who can produce anything of a godly nature? And the answer is yes. Do you know her name? Hannah. And what is the irony or the paradox of Hannah? She cannot have children. And yet what we're about to see is one of the most powerful pictures of faith in a barren nation. A barren woman is actually not as barren as she thinks she is. That's the irony of the whole thing. And the whole book does not begin with Eli and the sons, and it doesn't even begin with Samuel. It begins with a woman, and her name is Hannah. If you're taking notes, Hannah means graciousness. That's what it means. Can I have a volunteer to read for me verses 1 through 8 of 1 Samuel chapter 1? 1 Samuel chapter 1, verses 1 through 8. Could I have a volunteer read for me, please? Miss Teresa, go ahead.
There was a certain man or the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Zerahah, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuf, an Ephraimite. He had two wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the other Peninnah.
Nope, that's okay. That's how I pronounce it, Peninnah, so we'll go with it.
Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Once the man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portion to the Lord his wife, and to all their sons and daughters. But to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, O the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival used to provoke her grievously to irritate her, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah her husband said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?
All right, thank you very much. So let's look at verses 6 and 7. And we're going to look at two characters surrounding Hannah herself with all the issues that she's got going on. But according to verses 6 and 7, what is the rival wife, the enemy of Hannah? Let's just put it that way. What does she do to Hannah? What is she doing to her in verses 6 and 7?
Well, she provokes her, she tortures her, and she treats her ill out.
And I know it doesn't tell us why, but essentially, what is she doing it based off of? Okay. And in your Old Testament, what would, at least from a human perspective, what would be the sign of, what would be from a human point of view? I don't have children because of what? What would the common human thinking be? Okay, so we see the text says that the Lord closed the womb, but Hannah doesn't know this. What was most likely Hannah thinking on a day-to-day basis? Okay, something I did. I don't know what I did, but it's most likely something I did somewhere along in my past, whatever that is. The reader is given the insight that God had closed the womb. We're not told why, He just had done that. But either way, you've got an enemy that is provoking her grievously. The idea is not just that I'm going to mock you, make fun of you. The idea is that you use the word torture. I am going to say everything that I can possibly say to make misery on top of misery. And to let you know that I have the inside track. And when it's all said and done and the dust settles, I'm going to be the one, and my children will be the ones who will stand to inherit all of this. Now, let's reverse that. And according to verse 8, what does Hannah's husband say to her? So for the men in the room, what is Elkanah trying to do? For the men in the room.
Comfort her by saying I'm not enough.
Okay, yeah. And the thing about it is that we would think for a moment that he's just outside of his head and he just doesn't know what he's doing. But to a certain extent, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's doing what he does know. But everything is coming from love, because it does say that in verse 5, to Hannah he gave a double portion because he loved her. He's trying. Now it's failing, but he's trying. At the same time, for the ladies in the room, why is it a failure? Okay? What does he not understand? I know it's obvious, but I'm trying to put this into a perspective. Okay, so the inability to have children, how this is making me feel. Yes. Okay, so cannot fulfill the role. So it's not just how I feel personally in all of this, but then also, and it's not just even how I feel as a wife. This is what a woman was created to do from the very beginning. Be fruitful and multiply is the very first command in the entire Bible, and I can't even do that. Was he, Justin? Yes. Yes.
That might have been enough for her, but she had this rival, and that's what the word they use in our Bible, just rubbing it in.
Yes. Yeah, and which is, as much as he's trying to do, he still does what is right in his own eyes and has polygamy, and it has this within his life. And there's a whole set of spiritual lessons associated with all of that. But what would have happened if that was not invited in, if that was not brought in? Which is just a side note, be careful what you bring into your life. Not just people-wise, but just in general. Be careful what you bring into your life. Yes, ma'am? Sure. Yeah. And which is fascinating, that it's really coming from a place of being threatened, jealous, envious. So in all of this, and you're just Hannah, you're bearing... go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
But she also feels that he's not saying anything to her rival.
Okay.
He's responsible also for what's happening.
Sure. Sure. He brought it in, invited it in, so very much so.
Say anything to her, like, you need to leave her alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and you almost have the replay again of Abraham Sarah with Hagar. It's being replayed again. It's being redone. It's amazing how many times we will replay what other people have done in their life. We'll do it in our life. We just don't recognize that we're following that playbook. Either way, with all of this, Hannah is obviously physically barren, but now that you're being provoked by your rival, your husband is, to the best of his ability at the moment, but still falling short to the best of his ability, what other types of barren is she facing now in this particular moment? We already know physical. What else is she facing? Mental. And she will admit as much a little bit later on. Okay, what else? You got, well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, culturally, she's going to be looked at very.
Okay. Yes, she is going to be judged very harshly because she can't fulfill what she's supposed to do, on top of judging herself. So not only is she feeling inadequate and all of these other things, but she's judging herself as a failure. Now society's going to do it, and I would add, you mentioned a minute ago, a broken relationship. That's broken. Even if nobody's done anything intentionally outside of the rival, it's still broken to a certain extent because it can't be fulfilled to its extent. Yes?
And she has no future.
Okay?
Because who should be getting the double portion is the firstborn.
Correct.
And that's not going to be her kid. So she
Yes.
has no future, and now she can keep relying on this rival and her children.
Yes, which probably tells you that the chances of me being taken care of by her are 0 to none, right? So you're having all of that. And that's what the reader, what we're supposed to look at. If she can't find it in the people in her life, that is the idea of having a fulfillment. And if she can't find it in herself, and the barrenness exists, where does she go? And she does that. And that's what I want. Can somebody read verse 7 for me and read verse 19 for me? Just those two verses. Can somebody read verse 7 and verse 19?
So it was year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, that she provoked him. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then they rose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house of Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and remembered her.
How many years is she getting up and going to the house of the Lord? Year after year after year. Do you know that Hannah is the only woman recorded in your Old Testament that we are told actually goes to the tabernacle? No other woman has that honor. No other woman has that description. No other woman has that title. She is the only one who's described as going to the house of the Lord. She's the only one. Think about that for a minute. Since the tabernacle and the house of the Lord is established, there are a lot of great women that have come and gone. She's the only one. Why does she keep going to the house of the Lord to worship in a state of barrenness? Why not just quit? Why keep going year after year, time after time, in the face of being provoked, in the face of jealousy? You mentioned jealousy a minute ago. In the face of all of these things, why does she keep going, no matter what, to the house of God?
The only hope she's got.
Okay? Only hope she's got. Faith. Which is amazing, because how many Israelites are actually going to the house of the Lord? If you read the book of Judges, next to none. And if you look at the one who's supposed to be keeping the house of the Lord, he's as far removed from the Lord as you could possibly imagine. And here's this woman that's having all of these issues and all of these problems, and she shows us, in spite of all of that, how she feels, what she's enduring, all of this, she still goes. Yes, ma'am. Ah, okay. It is. Good point. Very good point. Yes, sir.
Definitely shows the power of persistence. It is worth the effort.
It is worth the effort. And we'll see that pay off in just a moment. For me and for you, why or how can we be more like Hannah then and not quit when it comes to the house of the Lord? Now, I know the building is not. I get all of that. But just for the sake of it, it's real easy to see people quit on a Sunday. And not quit on an actual Sunday, but quit on Sundays. It's no good. There is no payoff. I don't know why I keep going, and I don't know why I keep singing, and I don't know why I keep praying, and I don't know why I keep communing, and I don't know why I keep doing all of this, because I really don't want people to talk to me, and I really don't want people to ask me, and I really don't want people to bring it up, and I really don't want any of all these other things. It's better for me and for my family perhaps to stay at home than it is for us to go and to face all of those things. When we are tempted with that mindset, how does Hannah teach us to power through? And obviously faith is the answer with that, but give us some other nuggets of wisdom. Okay, so we'll see in just a minute that it's a place where she can pour out her heart. Okay, what else?
Similar to Job, though she's frustrated, she doesn't give up on God. I mean, she doesn't give up.
Okay.
She keeps speaking.
Yes, she does. Which is amazing that I'm amazed. The story of all of these individuals is they're not the primary, even though we're lifting them up for that moment. God's the primary character in all of these stories. It's amazing how He allows the space of frustration and faith to coexist. Because I would imagine she is frustrated. And, of course, other things as well. It's amazing to me she doesn't quit. Year after year, she goes. Year after year, she goes. Same routine. It's not like she's going every day. Don't hear me wrong, because they have to schedule. It's got to be planned, all of those. But she doesn't quit. Let Hannah remind you that when the time comes and you and your family have to experience being barren, you, your family, me, my family, we're going to be tempted. There is no point in going. Why go on a Sunday? Why go on a Wednesday? Why do this? Why do that? And the answer is exactly what Scott said. You go because where else is the frustration going to go? If I stay away, what overwhelms me? Frustration. If I stay away, it's grief. If I stay away, it's stress. If I stay away, it's whatever it is that's creating all of these things. To what she said earlier, desperation overwhelms me. In other words, as much as it doesn't feel like it, it really is good to meet with God's people in God's house on God's day. It really is. I know you may feel otherwise. I know you may even believe otherwise. There's a woman who felt exactly like you feel, who had to endure like what you're enduring, and she still went year after year in the face of all of it. Let her teach you. Let her mentor you through that. Let her say, when you face barrenness, the response is not to quit, not to give up like you were talking about, Scott, not to give up, but to keep going.
It also strikes me, and I don't believe this for sure, it's sad everything that got so forward close to the moon, but similar to Joe, his friends, convinced that there was something wrong with
Mm-hmm.
Joe. He had done something wrong, because why else would God have that
Sure.
happen? Wouldn't be surprised at all if that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a view that you've done something.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah. It is. And again, and with the fact that the Lord closed the womb, as both of you mentioned, it's a good reminder. Not everything that is bad in my life is my fault. But we still struggle with that same mentality. Sometimes it's just unfortunate. It's just part of living in this world. Look at verse 7, look at verse 10, and look at verses 15 and 16. And tell me, well, go ahead, Miss Bonnie, you were raising your hand.
I was just thinking about that song, Seek ye first the kingdom of God,
Uh-huh.
His righteousness, and all these things will be added. She does that.
She does. Despite how she feels, despite what her day-to-day experience is with all of the things going on internally, with the rival, with her husband, the lack of children, so forth and so on, she continues to seek. There is somebody who seeks in a dry and barren land that is Israel, and it's just Hannah. verse 7, verse 10, verse 15, and 16, what are her emotions? What are the specific ones that are mentioned in these verses? What do you see? Okay, so deeply distressed. Okay, what else? Okay, so she doesn't eat. Weeping. Okay, I have weeping, and then I have the English Standard has wept bitterly. Okay, bitterness of soul and anguish. Okay, mine has vexation. Sorrowful spirit. Okay, so all of these are being there. Define them briefly. Got just a few minutes. What, Carol, you mentioned deeply distressed. Just give me your own definition of that. What is that emotion? Describe that for me. Okay, could be rock bottom. No? Daniel?
A sense of helplessness of the situation or not seeing a way out necessarily.
Yeah. So it's rock bottom, but really the idea is that this is, whatever this thing is, has overpowered me. In every angle that I look, there is no way out. That is a great description of that.
He's not thought she's under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah. When we see him again, which tells you how inept he is, that his first thought, he is so warped from a worldly perspective that his first thought of a woman praying in the house of God is that she's drunk, if that tells you anything of what's going on. Go ahead.
Same as Acts 2.
Yeah. So the crowd thinks that as well, and Peter has to correct it. Weeping bitterly. Anybody? Definition? It is the ugly cry. Yes, that's what I wrote down. It is the ugly cry. It is not just the drizzle of tears. It's what we would say is the crocodile tears that are not going. They're not ending. It's the ugly cry. It's the worst thing possible. So, not only am I helpless, and not only am I overwhelmed, how I'm feeling, it brings out the ugly side of me. Not from anger or disappointment or aspect like that. It's just so bad. And in verse 10 and in verse 12, what does she do with all of these emotions? She prays through her tears and through her vexation and through her distress and through her, I know it's not there, but I agree with you, through her frustration and through her doubts and through her fears and through her uncertainty and through all of that. Actually, it's not just through, it's a companion. These emotions are a companion. Grief-stricken, gave it to God. And in verse 18, when we get to the very end, would somebody read verse 18 for me?
She said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. And she went her way and ate something. Her face was no longer downcast.
Fascinating. Now, I know she has a conversation with Eli. Put that to the side for just a moment. I know the bell rang, but just for something for you to meditate on, how does prayer help with our emotions? It's amazing that she prays, and she makes the vow. I think she makes a deal with God. She makes a bargain, which we ran out of time to get to. So something you could probably wrestle with. But either way, she goes away not sad anymore. It's kind of literally what it is. I think I read in my New Testament that if you pray, you receive a peace that surpasses all understanding. I wonder if she's the fulfillment of that. Not because they go away, not because God has just waved a magic wand and she's no longer vexed and she's no longer frustrated and it's not like those things have just been vanished into thin air. But something greater than those things has been given. So Daniel, to your point, prayer reminded her there's something even greater than all of that. Real quick, Daniel.
I was going to say, it gives you, there are many things you can't control in life, and so praying gives you the ability to reach out to God as a person who can control things. So
Yes.
it's like an outlet for if you still be capable of changing a situation.
Yeah.
God can.
And the thing about it is, and this is just, from an emotional standpoint, all of that stuff in that second bullet point is going to come out anyway. You can only bottle up how you feel for so long. Any of us, you only hold so much. It's going to come out. Why not pour it out to the one who can handle the ugly cry? Why not pour it out to the one who truly understands? Why not pour it out to the one who is not your rival but your friend? Why not pour it out to the one who is greater, stronger, so forth and so on? If it's going to come out, and it is, then why not go ahead and pour it out in the best place possible, even if it's the ugliest way that you could possibly imagine? After all, she gets up and she goes away no longer sad. I wonder if that is what Paul has in mind sometimes, if the Spirit through Paul has that in mind. Very quickly, Hannah addresses God. I don't know if you've ever noticed this or not, as the Lord of hosts. That term is only used to describe God when it's a military battle. She's in a battle, and I need a warrior right now. I need somebody who's going to fight. I think we see the Lord of armies several times. She asks him, I want you to remember me. I don't want you to forget me. I like the blunt honesty that she has with her emotions. And again, God is more than big enough to handle the bluntness that we bring in prayer sometimes. But remember me, don't forget me. I wanted this question. We ran out of time, but I'm not sure what we do with Hannah's bargain and her vow. I wouldn't advise it, but that's advice. If you happen to take one for any reason, the Old Testament does give you provision, and it gives you two things. If you make a vow, keep it and pay it as quickly as you can. It doesn't say whether you should or you should not. It just presupposes that you will. I'll let you decide that. Yes, ma'am.
I just think this story, it shows the difference between Hannah and some of the other women in the Bible, like Abraham, like Rachel and David, the other one, they always thought they could help God, even though they had a great faith. They always thought they could help God along because he wasn't the one who wanted.
Right.
Hannah, Jesus, like was mentioned, rock bottom state, she still had faith and she prayed to God.
Yes.
Trying to help God.
Yep. Great point. Great point. Very quickly, Hannah exhibits humility. The promise in 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7 is that if we'll humble ourselves before God, in due time He'll lift us up, and that He's able to cast your cares and your burdens on Him because He cares for you. I don't know if you've ever noticed this or not, but 1 Samuel 1 and verse 20, that in due time, Hannah conceived. Humble yourselves before God, and in due time, He will this. Some of you have an older version in proper time. There's a proper time. There's a proper place, all of that. But this is what he has to say. Brother Bill and then Miss Jane, very quickly.
She loved that child.
Sure?
She wanted him to do well. In fact, a verb is just used about what she took it was. She was lifting him to the Lord, which means she had still a connection.
She did. She did. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say that even though Hannah was silent in her prayers, I can honestly say that I haven't been silent,
Mm-hmm.
and that God can take that as well.
Yes.
He can take sobbing, yelling, and screaming, and being angry,
Mm-hmm.
because that's also honest.
It is.
But the main thing is that it's honest
It is.
in some form or fashion.
In some form or fashion. And again, with her, with others, Naomi, Ruth, for instance, that's how you feel, and I'm big enough to handle that. Just in the proper response, don't quit. Keep coming to the house of God with God's people when the time comes. Don't shut yourself out from them. Pray, and pray honestly. And as a side note, I know we've been doing Mary's Magnificat on Sunday nights. Hannah is pre-Mary. Her song is just as powerful. It's the Old Testament version of that. I'd encourage you to read it this week. The class is yours.